The winter of 1942 in Stalingrad was not just cold. It was a living, breathing predator. Snow drifted through the skeletons of bombed-out buildings, settling into craters where men had bled out only hours before. The air carried the metallic tang of gunpowder, mingled with the sour stench of unwashed bodies. It was a city stripped to its bones, and those bones were still fighting. The Volga River, once a symbol of life and trade, now lay frozen and silent, an unbroken sheet of ice that reflected the dull glow of distant fires. On one side, the Germans pushed with relentless force, desperate to crush the Soviet spirit. On the other, the Red Army clung to every shattered brick, refusing to give up even a single street. Among them were the snipers, ghosts in the rubble, shadows that could end a man's life with the twitch of a finger. To the soldiers pinned under their scopes, they were nightmares made flesh, unseen, unheard, until it was too late. Our story follows one such sniper. He is not a famous name in history books. He is a man like many others, dragged from his home in the countryside and trained to kill with precision. His rifle, a Mosin Nagant with a scope, is his lifeline. His spotter, a young soldier barely out of his teens, is his only company in this ruin of a city. This is not the story of the generals who moved pieces on a map. It is the story of a single day in the crosshairs, a day of patience, cold, hunger, and the razor's edge between life and death. In Stalingrad, every sunrise was uncertain. Every shadow might hide the enemy. And for a sniper, every moment was a choice: wait, move, or take the shot. The morning begins before the sun can lift its pale face over the ruins. Our sniper wakes not to an alarm, but to the slow creak of the wind slipping through cracked walls. He pulls himself from a nest of tattered blankets, each breath fogging the air in front of him. His fingers are stiff, his joints aching from the cold that seeps into bone. Beside him, his spotter stirs, a boy named Mikhail, barely 18. They exchange no words. Conversation wastes heat, wastes time, and in this city, silence is survival. The first task is to check the rifle. The Mosin Nagant is as much a partner as the boy crouched beside him. He slides the bolt, smooth but deliberate, checking the chamber. The weapon must be clean, dry and oiled. Frost is a killer as deadly as any bullet. He runs a cloth over the scope's glass, clearing the frost that tries to creep in like a thief. Their position is a half-collapsed factory overlooking a wide, rubble-strewn street. Across that street, the Germans have taken what's left of a warehouse. Both sides know the other is there. Both sides know that the first to show their head will lose it. The hunt begins with patience. The sniper peers through a jagged gap in the wall, his body still as stone. Mikhail lies flat beside him, using a pair of battered field glasses to scan the opposite windows. The boy's breath is slow, too fast, and it fogs the lenses, too slow, and he risks freezing his lungs in the icy air. Time in Stalingrad moves differently for a sniper. Minutes stretch into hours. You wait, eyes straining for a flicker of movement, a shadow where it shouldn't be, a glint of light off glass, the sudden stillness of something alive trying to be stiller. Then a shift. Across the street, a curtain flutters, too controlled to be the wind. The sniper exhales long and slow. He does not move his head, only his eyes. He knows the German is testing him, teasing out a reaction. He gives none. A half-hour passes before the German's patience cracks. A helmet rises, just enough to look through a slit in the wall. That's the mistake. The sniper squeezes the trigger, feeling the recoil push against his shoulder. The sound of the shot is swallowed by the ruins, but the helmet jerks back violently. A shadow crumples out of sight. Mikhail lets out a slow breath, the only sign of relief he'll give. The sniper doesn't look at him, not yet. Instead, he scans the windows again, waiting for the next move. Where there is one German, there are others. And revenge often follows quickly. A distant machine gun rattles somewhere deeper in the city. Artillery thumps far away, shaking dust from the beams above. The sniper ignores it all. His world is reduced to the 20 meters across that frozen street. The cold gnaws at his fingers despite the gloves. His stomach growls, but he knows better than to dig into his rations now. Eating means movement. Movement means death. Finally, Mikhail whispers, just a single word. 2. The sniper shifts the scope ever so slightly. Another German crouching low, rifle in hand, moving cautiously, almost crawling. The sniper tracks him through the crosshairs, reading the rhythm of his movements. The moment the man pauses, adjusting his weapon, the shot comes. Quick, decisive. The body folds into the rubble, motionless. 2 shots this morning. Both counted. The sniper withdraws slightly from the firing position, enough to let his eyes rest. Mikhail begins noting the kills in a small, grimy notebook, not for pride, but for command. Each life taken is a number on a page, a tiny fracture in the enemy's strength. The day is far from over. In Stalingrad, the hunt never ends. The sniper knows he will spend the next hours in this same frozen stillness, waiting again for the faintest sign of life across the way. And when it comes, he will be ready. By midday, the light changes. The pale winter sun filters through the smoke and dust, casting long, jagged shadows across the ruins. The sniper has learned to read these shadows as clearly as a map. A man can hide in darkness, but shadows move with the day, and sooner or later they betray him. The wind picks up, carrying the distant rumble of tanks from another sector of the city. Somewhere far off, shells slam into stone, sending vibrations through the sniper's bones. The front shifts constantly, but here in this narrow street, the fight is measured not in territory, but in lives. His stomach twists with hunger. Since dawn, he's eaten nothing but a small piece of frozen bread, chewed slowly to make it last. Food is scarce, and the little they get is shared with the infantry, holding the buildings around them. A sniper can only work if the frontline soldiers keep the enemy from advancing, and the frontline soldiers can only hold if someone keeps the enemy's sharpshooters from cutting them down. It's a cycle of survival. Mikhail, his young spotter, is peering through the binoculars again, his breath forming tiny clouds. He shifts uncomfortably, rolling his shoulders to fight off the cold. The boy's eyes are red from staring too long at one point, but neither of them can afford to blink too much. Then movement, subtle but there. Across the street near the corner of the warehouse, a helmet dips out of sight. Too quick for a shot, but enough to set the sniper's instincts on edge. He readjusts the rifle, aligning his scope with the angle of the wall. The seconds stretch. He doesn't fire. He waits. And then he sees it, the faint glimmer of glass in a window above. A scope. The enemy sniper is here. Both are watching for the other's mistake. This is the most dangerous kind of duel, patient, silent, each man knowing that the tiniest slip will be his last. The sniper lowers himself slightly, taking advantage of the deep shadow cast by the beam overhead. Through the scope, He watches the enemy's position without directly staring into the glass. It's a delicate balance, seeing without being seen. 5 minutes. 10. 15. His fingers are numb. His breathing slow. Mikhail remains frozen beside him, not daring to speak. Then luck, or perhaps discipline. A shift of light on the far wall betrays the German's cheek against the scope. The sniper squeezes the trigger. The crack echoes in the hollow street. Through the glass, the figure collapses sideways, vanishing from view. Mikhail exhales sharply, relief etched on his face. But there's no celebration. The sniper knows that where there's one sharpshooter, another may soon replace him. The rest of the afternoon is spent in uneasy stillness. Occasional shots ring out from neighboring buildings, but none are close enough to force them to move. The cold has settled deep into his joints now, a constant ache that makes even the act of blinking feel sluggish. At one point, a squad of Soviet infantry scrambles across the street below, carrying crates of ammunition. The sniper keeps his scope trained on the upper windows, ensuring their safe passage. No German muzzle flashes appear, but that doesn't mean the enemy isn't watching. By late afternoon, the light begins to fade. Shadows stretch long again, and with them comes new danger. The enemy often uses this time to reposition, knowing the dim light can mask movement. The sniper adjusts his sight, compensating for the gloom. His shots must be perfect. In this light, a miss is as good as a warning. Then it happens. A figure breaks from cover, sprinting low across the far side of the street. It's not a soldier carrying a rifle, it's a runner, likely delivering orders. The sniper tracks him for 2 seconds before firing. The figure drops mid-stride, sliding to a halt on the frozen ground. The street is still again. The sniper pulls back from the scope, rubbing his eyes. Mikhail makes another note in the logbook. 4 confirmed kills today. 4 fewer enemies to face tomorrow. But the day is far from over. In Stalingrad, night is not rest. Night is another battlefield, and soon they will have to decide whether to stay hidden in their perch or risk moving to a new one before darkness swallows the city whole. When the last light bleeds from the horizon, Stalingrad changes its shape. The jagged ruins fade into silhouettes, and the streets become rivers of shadow where every sound carries further than it should. The sniper stays still for several minutes after sunset, letting his eyes adjust to the darkness. The cold is sharper now, biting through his coat and numbing his fingertips. Mikhail has pulled his scarf higher over his face, leaving only his eyes visible. They listen, waiting for the new dangers that night brings. Under the cover of darkness, the city breathes differently. Boots scrape over rubble. Whispers slip through shattered windows. Somewhere nearby, a door creaks open and then closes with a dull thud. Every noise could mean friend or foe. The sniper's rifle feels heavier in his hands. It's not the weight of the weapon itself. It's the hours of tension, the strain of keeping his body motionless through the day. Now every muscle protests as he shifts position. But there is no time for comfort. Night is when supply runners cross the lines, when reconnaissance teams move in close, and when rival snipers relocate for fresh vantage points. He scans the street below. Without sunlight, his scope is nearly useless for long distances, but at close range, it can still pick out movement in the pale moonlight. The enemy knows this too, and they move more slowly now, hugging the walls, crouching low. Mikhail taps him on the shoulder and points. A figure slips between 2 burned-out buildings across the street. The sniper tracks it, waiting for a clear shot. But then, a second figure follows, then a third. Not snipers. A small German patrol. Killing them all would be risky. One shot might give away their position, drawing fire from an unseen enemy. But letting them pass could be worse. They could set up an observation post that threatens the Soviet soldiers holding this block. The sniper makes his choice. He aims for the last man in the patrol. One shot, quick and clean. The figure drops, and before the others can react, they melt back into the shadows. Silence returns, thick and suffocating. From that moment on, the night is a series of brief, tense encounters. A faint metallic clink, perhaps a grenade pin, sends both men freezing in place until the sound fades. A lone cry echoes down the street before cutting off abruptly. Somewhere nearby, a machine gun rattles for a short burst, then stops. Time passes strangely. Minutes feel like hours. The moon climbs higher, casting fractured light through the broken bones of the city. In that light, the sniper sees the faint glint of metal from a window across the square. It's too far to be certain, but experience tells him enough. Another rifle. Another pair of eyes hunting in the dark. He and Mikhail exchange a silent glance. The boy slides down from the perch, moving into the building's deeper shadows. They can't risk being pinned here. Quietly, they gather their gear, rifle, ammunition, the logbook, and begin the careful process of retreat. Every step is placed with deliberate care to avoid loose bricks or shards of glass. The route is a winding one, slipping through corridors where the walls lean in like conspirators, ducking through doorways that open into nothing but moonlit dust. Twice they stop to listen, pressed against the cold stone, certain they've heard footsteps behind them. When they finally reach a safer building several streets away, the relief is muted. There is no warmth waiting for them, no soft bed or hot meal. Just another ruined room with a vantage point over another stretch of the front. They settle in. The night is not over, and tomorrow will demand the same work. The sniper knows he will wake with the cold in his bones and the tension in his hands, but there is no alternative. In Stalingrad, survival is measured one day, one shot at a time. The life of a sniper in Stalingrad was a balance of patience, precision, and endurance. For every enemy taken down, there were countless unseen threats waiting in the rubble. Each day brought new dangers, and each night offered only a brief, uneasy pause before the hunt began again. In the frozen heart of that city, every soldier was both predator and prey, locked in a struggle where victory was measured not in land gained, but in the simple act of surviving until morning.